Hey everyone, it's Terrence Branley with the Grow IT podcast. And today I have Dennis Spada, who is the Executive Vice President of Seneca Global. And if you're in a company that's in need of software development, world class software development, then you'll probably enjoy this conversation. Dennis, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Terrence.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your background. As far back or up until you got to Seneca, and then what it's been like at Seneca.
Sure. I've been in IT as a developer for the past 30 years. I've been with Seneca for about 14 years of that. So obviously at this stage in my role, I've head up operations and delivery for the organization. So my development days are long in the past, but still enjoy those conversations and with all the technical folks.
Yeah. Well, tell me about Seneca Global and tell me about, some of the, different, I always asked, folks kind of, hey, how do you view your core offer, right? What is it that you guys are really good at? I know you guys cross a number of different industries, but maybe you can tell us from your viewpoint, what do you think you guys are best at and how you go about, how you go
Absolutely.
about helping clients?
Yeah, for sure. So we are basically an outsourced product development firm based in Chicago, Illinois. We've got our development center in Hyderabad, India. So we offshore a lot of our services, but we focus primarily on the middle market, and we do work with everything from late stage startups or well funded startups to middle market ISVs in all areas of product development. Pretty much technology agnostic, depending on what types of skill sets our clients require. We also have a few other ancillary service offerings. We do ERP managed services, and we have some engagements that are pure, quality, QA and automation. And then a few other things such as IT help desk, technology advisory services, things like that.
Well, you mentioned, mid-market folks and that you kind of concert. What are some of the, challenges that those, mid-market clients are facing and what are they, when you get involved with them, whether it be, at the onset of the first engagement you have with them or even, probably repetitive, customers or clients that come back to you numerous times, what are some of the challenges they're facing that they're looking to you to help them overcome? Or what are some of their, outcomes? What are they trying to get to?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different scenarios that we see quite often. One of the common areas is just scalability and acquisition of talent. So we've got a number of clients that come to us and just say, hey, we can't find X, Y, and Z. We need some high-end developers that focus on a particular area. So we'll go out and build a specific team for them. But it's that scalability and time to market. So we can help them accelerate whether we are a part of their existing development effort and their internal teams. And we have some clients where we are their entire R&D function, right? They kind of view us as their own captive offshore center. So scalability and time to market are that's one of the common areas. The other that we see is we'll come in as supplementary to an existing IT organization. We'll handle either legacy development or current state development and allow their internal folks to focus on future next gen development or their version 2. So we kind of add that I guess a lower risk model of scaling and allowing their internal folks who have the bulk of the business knowledge to focus on their next gen products.
Do you see that, again, it seems to me that IT, departments these days, especially in the mid-market, get stretched more and more. And do you see that as one of the reasons why they're coming to you or the ability? I mean, the speed and the go-to-market makes a ton of sense, right? Because,
Yeah.
Hey, all of a sudden if they're like, hey, we have to go ramp up, we've got to go find the talent. but B, we've got a laundry list of initiatives that we've been tasked with, and therefore there's no way we can do it all.
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen that where, we've come in and just been tasked with, hey, look at the backlog, work through our backlog, and there's things that we can't get to from a strategic perspective because we're focusing on backlog work. Um, I think what we're looking at going into 24 and we've seen toward the end of 23 is, with the economic environment, everyone's tightening down. So kind of the story you keep hearing is let's try to do more with less. And that's where the offshore model still has, a viable economic benefit. But again, we also have that ability to find all the right developers, architects, what have you, get the right people in the right places. So that whole do more with less seems to be like the current mantra that we see going forward for at
Yeah.
least the next few quarters.
Yeah, and that ability to plug right in to kind of a proven methodology and a proven group, it makes it invaluable, right? Especially for businesses who are
Absolutely.
trying to make those decisions that are trying maybe to adjust on the fly from their own business initiatives, whether it's scaling up or scaling down or just trying to batten down the hatches during the economic period
Yeah.
that's uncertain. So maybe one of the things I'd love to hear is like, I love client success stories, and I always preface it by saying, hey, every client success doesn't always necessarily mean, hey, they're standing on the pinnacle of the mountain with planting the flag, right? Every client's desired outcomes are different, right? Maybe you can kind of give me a couple of stories or a couple of examples that come to your head of how you've helped some clients
Yeah,
who are
sure.
trying to get from point A to point B.
Yeah, we had a good example is we had a client that was in the software security space. They were probably Series C funded, and they were looking to really accelerate their development. So, we came in, we were able to meet their challenge of building a fairly decent sized sprint team that had high end talent. So we were looking really at top tier talent, especially coming out of India. That's a challenge sometimes. The way that we focus and structure our engagements. We have smaller groups. We're not necessarily a body shop with a huge bench. We build our sprint team specific to the client needs, and the clients are involved in helping us, bring the right folks together. But in this one particular case, we were able to essentially um, get them to market. I think they said they were probably 2.5 times faster to market. They were able to get a large number of their initiatives. They did like a fivefold flip on their strategic initiatives because they just started to churn through that wish list a little bit faster. So it kind of goes back to my previous comment on scalability and time to market. But that was a good example of that. Another nice one for us is we have some clients that are, we would refer to them as legacy clients now that have been with us for 5, 6, 7 years. Um, so we've got some of those clients that they just really look at us as part of their organization. Some of our folks back in the day when they were in the office more regularly, some of those folks were always like mistaken for FTEs because they've been there so long and been involved in so much. And that's a client where we've gone in and we essentially started um, a base project to transform their legacy ERP and allow them to function through basically a staged out conversion to SAP. So again, this is not really in the product development space, but over in the ERP managed service space. And with that client, we were able to establish ourselves, build that trust. We created a great partnership and a great relationship with the folks there. And then over the years, we've just, they call us first, we're kind of a preferred vendor there. And, they'll call us and say, can we do this? Can we do that? And, 9 times out of 10, we can. When we can't, we're the first ones to say. So we've built a pretty good base as an anchor client out of just bringing in a variety of different functionalities, whether it's Um, like I said, managed services for legacy systems, data conversion, SharePoint maintenance, EDI. It's another one of those clients that we do 24/7 help desk for. So we have the ability to bring in a variety of functions and a variety of skill sets above and beyond our traditional outsourced product development model.
Yeah, and you mentioned the partnership side, and I think anytime that that you can be viewed as an embedded, part of that, client's business, that is kind of that's indicative of a really good partnership, right? And it's so invaluable. I think the partnership term or label gets thrown around a lot.
Hmm.
But it's another thing when you start seeing things like, oh, I didn't even realize that was a Seneca global employee. I thought he worked for us, right? And they just didn't. You
Yeah,
feel like it's embedded. That truly
yeah,
is where you realize the value of the partnership from both sides. So,
yeah. And
um,
that, internally, that's how we also, as we talk about clients or prospects, and you would talk to someone and say, this person has a, you know, very broad depth of knowledge on outsourced product development. They understand working with offshore teams. They understand how to partner and create that win-win situation. And internally, we're like, that's a good partner, right? And we have others that, we say, okay, there's a little bit of risk here because they're not looking at us to really partner. They're looking at it as a commoditized vendor. And we have clients that are like that as well, and we service them just the same. But in terms of identifying the relationship and expectations, you have to kind of operate on a different level sometimes when people have different expectations.
Yeah, and truly, from my viewpoint, at least, I see that the way that things are going to be for a number of different reasons, that things that probably are happening external in the marketplace, trends that we're seeing, I see that more, firms will partner up with others, rather than the supplier, commodity type of relationship that is viewed. And I think in, the next 5 to 10 years, I think we're going to see more of that across a number of different places. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously our business model is, business development and marketing strategy. And we do the same thing. We're forming partnerships with, our IT consulting firm clients, but we're starting to see that across a number of different, areas in the industries. And it's just fascinating to me to see that. And I think it's indicative of the 1+1=3 model, and
Yeah.
it's so critical and important. And then, speaking of the, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say on that note, part of our model is that, we don't do a lot of project work. We structure essentially a monthly fixed fee for our teams. And that really develops longer term sticky relationships. And in order to have that relationship, you have to kind of look at each other as a partnership. You know, there's a there's one of the sayings that we kind of use that we say, oh, do you want to go out on a blind date, or do you want to go and look for a marriage, right? And we joke around with our clients about that, but it is a marriage, right? There's some gives and takes, and some compromises, but it has to work for everyone. So, yeah, I agree. Everyone uses the term partnership, but there's also that idea of, all right, let's really execute on it and make it, you know, a positive thing and make it beneficial for everyone's success.
Agree. Well, I kind of mentioned and touched on, seeing some external trends. I mean, it's obviously hard these days in IT to talk about trends without mentioning AI, right? And
Yeah.
LLMs and all the rest. I mean, is that the biggest trend that you see, and what do you see, coming of it that businesses should be aware of, and how should they kind of prepare?
Yeah, I think in terms of trends, strategically, as I said, there's the do more with less, right? So, we see, and just when we're talking budgets and initiatives, I've talked to so many people that are, like, hey, happy holidays, great to see you, happy New Year, let's talk Q3, right? So everyone's just kind of kicking the can
Kicking the
down the
can.
road a little bit.
Mhm.
From a technology perspective, yeah, for sure, AI, ML, the large language models. I think what we'll see is there's, there's the accessibility now that we see with these technologies, but the next step in that is how do you leverage it, right? How do you leverage the technology, not just through, ChatGPT or Bard or some other chatbot. It's really kind of that next. I don't want to say it's the version two, but it's kind of the next step in crawling along the way to leverage AI. The other thing that we're hearing a lot about now is low code, no code. So we've done quite a bit of work, not quite a bit, but probably a good amount of work so far already in the last few years. But I think that's becoming more part of the conversation. So,
Why do you
you
think
can
that
see,
is? Why do you think that is? I've heard that come up a number of times here recently as well, and I'm curious because I don't know if it has, if it's so. I'll preface it by saying, hey, as a no code guy, a zero code guy, you know, we I've been able to do some things just using Chat GPT, right? In terms of, hey, I know what I want a process to do. I have no idea how to code it, right? So like we have a couple of different, probably like everybody, number of different SaaS software platforms that we have, some open source ERP.
yep,
And so for me, I was able to use it to write code basically based on a, hey, I want it to do this, spit me out the code that I can give to get me kind of 80% of the way there. So is that kind of, do you think that that initiative is what's driving the low code, no code, or is it something else? I'm curious.
yeah. I think from the pure low code, no code perspective, kind of taking Chat GPT out of the
Yep.
conversation.
Yep.
It still is integrated, right? And you see a lot of, your development tools, that are integrating with AI. But, I think for a lot of people, it's just that quick and dirty, like how can we get there, either go to market or solve some of these problems, very fast without being, uh, you know, too sophisticated. And I'm choosing my words carefully there. We've got a couple clients that, you have the conversation around low code, no code, but you also have to talk about, okay, what is your long-term goal? Is this sophisticated enough to deal with what you want right now? Or do we have to really get into, more of a product mindset and get into some higher end development? So as with everything, any type of accelerator you use, you're going to have to look at the pros and cons. So, while I'm not a low code, no code expert, I can see the trends in the conversations going that way. And like you said, you've used it to get you 80% of the way there. I've had this similar experience, right? If you can shape this big blob of clay and all I have to do is, make a few more adjustments, then we're good to go.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, and again, I'll throw it back on myself as the no code idiot, let's call right. And so from a low code, no code standpoint, I'm looking at it as a view to from a business strategy standpoint, to say, hey, I know where I want to go. I want to try this. I want to test this, right? And to be able to put in technology that is low code, that's much faster, allows me to go to market faster, right? But to your point, you got to also balance that with like, hey, it's not a it may not even be a semi-permanent solution. You just need to look at it as kind of a temporary band-aid,
yeah,
so to speak, to get there. Is that sound about right?
yeah, absolutely. You have to look at scalability, maintainability, and then really what is the problem that it's solving, right? So if you can leverage that, right now and get up and running or go to market quicker, that gets you there and allows you to kind of turn around and develop your version two solution or your more sophisticated solution. So I think there's a lot, a lot of merit to that point.
Yep. What is it, when I talk to folks, and again, we talked kind of earlier about, client success stories and things of that nature, but if I was to ask you, hey, what do you think is the most, you're clearly not we all have competitors out in the marketplace. All of us do. What do you see as the most significant value, that Seneca Global brings to the market, and how do you communicate that to prospects?
Yeah, I think, for Seneca Global, again, it's, the clients that we're going after or the market that we're going after. It's finding the right people with the need and understanding our model of, we're looking at a partnership, we're looking at something that's long term. When we build our sprint teams, we're building with high-end skill sets. We've got a very mature and seasoned methodology of project management and quality assessment on the back end in our R&D center in Hyderabad. So we're bringing all of these things to the table, and then when we sit down with prospects, we're trying to help them understand that we're not just a fly-by-night organization. You really need to see under the covers, and we really welcome that. We always want our clients to go to India and visit the operations there and see their teams and see how we manage and run things. So again, it's not to kind of rehash the same topic, but it's that partnership of here's what we can do for you. We're going to bring this level of professionalism, quality, and productivity to the table. And there are times when it doesn't fit, right? We're the first ones to look at a client and say, I don't know if we're the right solution for you. And there's also times when we'll say that and we'll try to help them find that right solution through some of our network or partners or what have you. But so I think that idea of having a long-term partnership, again, because we don't do short-term project work. In that case, you want to come in and deliver and move on and go find the next one. So this is really kind of ingratiating ourselves with everyone that we work with, and bringing success to all levels of that organization.
Yeah. And, again, I don't think you can talk about partnership and the strength of partnership enough. I just think it's so imperative to the success of every business out there. I'm a big believer in it, and not a big believer in the commodity supplier,
Yeah. Yeah.
viewpoint, because to your point, right, it goes kind of back to the relationship thing. And we were touching and using the analogy of marriage, right? Like, it's business. Like, things go up, things go down, right? There's challenges, nothing's perfect. But to be a value partner, to be able to be honest, transparent, straightforward, and sometimes, at a risk maybe to our own personal well-being, our own business's well-being, to be able to say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Client, it might be in your best interest to look at, using this partner or doing
Yeah.
this, right? I think those all go together, right?
Yeah. And that, the key to all of that, right, especially in this distributed world now, post-pandemic, is communication. So, we put a lot of effort into, clear communication, level setting expectations. We've got a whole defined process that focuses on new client onboarding that starts, from, you know, before we sign the contract through 30, 60, 90 days post, just to ensure engagements are set up and structured properly, and we have all of the logistical things taken care of, and that enables our teams to focus on being teams and focus on really kind of getting up to speed and delivering the work product. So it's a challenge when you have a team that's really distracted with, I don't have the right permissions, or I don't have the right hardware or equipment, or we don't have a clear mutual agreement on communication cadences, everything, and that's just been years of postmortems and hindsight meetings where we're like, okay, what can we do better, what can we do better? So we're always trying to do better.
That should be the mantra for all of us. Well, let me ask you a kind of a fun question here. Like, you've been obviously in IT for most of your career, some of it, when you started out on the programming side, on the coding side, right?
Mm-hmm.
You evolve and grow your professional life to, become an EVP. and obviously it takes you away from maybe some of the stuff that you really enjoy doing. What is it that you enjoy doing the most, both in your past roles and maybe in your current role?
Um, well, that's a good question. So, in the really, if I look at my younger self, it was once I really got that full level of confidence in my abilities, and I hesitate to say that I was a prima donna as a developer, but I was confident in my abilities. So I think being able to, as a developer, as you progress and require less and less hand holding, and you're delivering and you see the response and the satisfaction increase. Um, I think that was one of the things that really stuck with me as a younger developer. And then if you take that and kind of apply it now to my role, it's that whole notion of, okay, you meet a new client. There's not a lot of understanding other than what you've uncovered in a number of sales meetings or face-to-face meetings, and to get from there to finding success and having that client be successful and come back and say, you're a critical part of our organization, or, we love Seneca Global, or we love our team. It's that journey, right? The journey to success. And as I've been on the management side and on the delivery side for so many years, you start to see all those different things, and you start to, identify the pitfalls, and you're able to avoid them naturally and find success quicker, right? So, because we've all stumbled and had to get back up. So I think it's kind of the same concept in both chapters of my career. And it's, for me, I know that if a client comes back and is super happy, right? They love us, they love Seneca Global. That means that, they're doing well, we're doing well. We've got a client that's strong and that's going to stay with us for a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, it's the path to success, and how many hurdles you have to go over. Sometimes fewer hurdles are preferred. Sometimes more hurdles are also rewarding, right?
I like to say the path to success looks like spaghetti. It's never a straight line. There's a lot of bumps and bruises involved in it. Yeah, and again, I've got I won't say younger, but I'll say less experienced, co-founders, and they always say, "Man, that is such a smart idea." And I said, "It's not smart, trust me. It's just basically years of making the wrong decisions and a lot of mistakes that make me look smart now. But trust me, it came to." 9 out of 10 making the wrong decision, and now I finally got it right in my more experienced years. But
Yeah, that's how we learn, right?
yeah, it is. So you mentioned kind of the journey and the path, right? And maybe as we kind of get close to wrapping things up here, if you can talk to me a little bit about what that path, what that journey looks like for a new client. So when get involved with a prospect, and you're having probably conversations, but maybe you can kind of walk us through what that looks like from your viewpoint, in terms of a prospect that becomes a new client with Seneca Global.
Absolutely. Yeah, many opportunities start with a sales conversation. The typical, you're searching out for some need and seeing if there's a fit. We like to pretty quickly get technical folks involved, and we'll schedule calls with our architects and their leads, or their architects as well. So you really kind of search out that, I would say the technical alignment, right? And then as we get close to solidifying a deal, we talk more about what does the engagement look like, um, team composition, structure, and all those things. And like I mentioned previously, our new client onboarding methodology um, starts to overlap at those later stages of the sales cycle, and that's essentially the shepherd that kind of carries things on. So it's not just a direct handoff from sales to delivery. We have our NCO team that kind of sits on top of that and really ushers everyone through. That requires a few more meetings where we'll go through and do surveys or questionnaires, just to kind of do some fact gathering and fact finding. Um, but at that point, then we've got a clear vision of what the engagement should look like, what the team should look like. All along, we're in the background looking at resource availability and staffing. So, we'll work with our talent acquisition team in India or here in the U.S. and start to work on that magical timing of, okay, can you get all the right resources in place right when they want to go? And with the way the market is now, there's usually a little bit of lead time to get everyone in place. But we then focus on, okay, teams established. Let's get moving on establishing methodology, cadences. There's everything from, are we integrating with their project management system or methodology? How do we structure reporting? Those kinds of things. And then as we get, I would say up to cruising altitude and steady state, we're looking, probably 60, 90 days past signing a contract. That's when we start to look at pulling back the NCO process and folks that are working on that side of it. And then at that point, the team is up to steady state and should be fully functioning with the client at that point. So again, back to the partnership side of it, we then will still have a few other layers of communication. I mean, I myself have a number of clients that I speak with on a regular basis. That there's a variety of reasons for that. One, you just want to check in, you want to establish the partnership and the relationship. You also want to look at expansion and all those kinds of things. So I also am on those calls when there's escalations or we've got some concerns. So that's typically what it looks like. I would say though, over the course of my 14 years at Seneca and the number of clients we have throughout our portfolio, not there isn't one that's gone exactly the same as another. Some are real easy. Some the sales cycle is lightning fast and quick, and we've got the resources available, and you're up and running in a month or two. And there's others that just seem to drag on, and again, with everyone concerned about the economy and finances and strategy, we're starting to see some of those sales cycles stretch out a little bit more right now.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up here, and obviously, I think the key component of our conversation today is pretty much revolved around relationships. And if someone out there is a business owner or business leader is watching this today and wants to investigate or have a conversation about starting that relationship, what's a good way for them to get a hold of you? What's a good way for them to reach out to someone at Seneca Global?
They can reach out to me directly, or hit our website at senecaglobal.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. I don't know if you want me to
I'll put the link in the show notes there. I'll make
throw
sure
it in the notes. Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. Would love to talk with anyone who's interested. I also just like to talk technology and just the whole industry. So the whole idea of networking is a great idea. So even if someone doesn't want to use our services, let's talk and see what you're doing and what we could be doing down the road. But yeah, we're just always looking for that win-win and trying to leverage great relationships.
Well, great. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on today. I'll tell you what, the next time I have you back on, we'll talk technology, but it'll be a one-way conversation. You'll have to just basically talk technology to me. I'll probably just have to limp along, but I greatly appreciate your time.
We can find something to chat about.
I'm sure we can. I'm sure I can find somewhere at some point to put a little bit of value in there, but there's so much moving, in the technology space. I say this, to a lot of folks I talk with, and that it reminds me back when I first came into the business world back in the, early 90s, and the internet came about and we were wrestling with trying to figure out, what to do with this monster, how to incorporate into business processes to make things, better, more efficient. And that all of a sudden today we're faced with the same with AI and LLMs, and it seems like it's a 10x problem compared to internet. So, to me, I think what we're going to find here the next few years is just going to be fascinating, the pace of change.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree wholeheartedly.
Good. Well, I'm going to have you back to talk about that. So I'm going to count that as a yes.
Perfect.
Well, Dennis, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll look forward to having you on the next time.
Great. Thanks a lot, Terrence. Great talking to you.
Thanks.
Yeah, cheers.
Hang on. Let me stop it.